Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of Jacob's Ladder. With so much going on in the world, I say it's time for us to take another look, to try to figure out why all of this is happening, to try to understand what we can do. I'm your host, Jacob Israel. Welcome, everybody. I see a lot of people here already. Give it a thumbs up. Let's get this show on the road. A lot of things happening. A lot of things happening right now. The Trump trial going down right now. Jury selection. The deciding who's going to be part of this hush money trial. Shh. Got to be quiet. Same time this is happening, we have President Biden leaving the beach because of everything that's happening in another part of the world right now that has everybody on edge. You take a look at this thumbnail and you got to say, wow, it looks like the whole world is up in arms. And why wouldn't they be? It seems to me like maybe that's probably the problem. I feel like there's like an energy out there, and the energy is kind of pushing people to think that all hope is lost. Today, I'm hoping to introduce you to the PeaceMakers. You're going to find out how this is incredibly important, especially today, on the day when the Titanic sunk. This is connected, believe it or not, to everything else because of the hubris of the Titanic. If you remember, back in 1912 on April 15th, they made the bold claim that God himself could not sink this ship. And very famously, the ship was sank by an iceberg. Believe it or not, there's even some stories and some ideas around this. But it was all the movers and the shakers and all the important people, all the big wigs that were on this boat. And just recently, we had more news about a sub that went down to visit this Titanic, and it went just like that, like a can, like a soda can, just collapsed in on itself. There was a lot of strangeness attached to this, because back then there was the trial as well. We have so many things to cover. I'd like to point out that maybe God is probably the most important part of this show. It's sad because a lot of people don't really recognize that maybe there is a creator, but we're going to find that the idea of having an architect is intrinsically linked with the madness that's happening in the world. This channel, if you're new, I'm Jacob Israel. Welcome. I'm a speculator. I take things in the world and I kind of just reveal what I hope to be a more spiritual message, which we have a lot to get into today. It's something that I think people need to pay attention to. One of the things that I try to do is I try to share my faith and encourage you in your faith. And I got to tell you today, I need your faith. I need your faith because I want to see things. I want to see things in a different way. Right now, it seems that all hope is lost. Seems like this world is sort of like the Titanic. And it seems that very few people are willing to even acknowledge the fact that there is God, except for Marvel, who finally confirms that there is a God that fits into their cosmic hierarchy. It's today's news. I think it's pretty interesting. One of the things that I do here is, and one of the things that I've been trying to do here is not so much point out, hey, I told you this and I told you that, and I had a feeling this was coming, but right now I feel like I need to pivot. Because I don't want to point out, oh, I told you this was going to happen. 7 days exactly before everything happened, I had a thumbnail that says it's war. But I don't want to do that. I instead want to remind people that God's arm is not slack, that it cannot save. That there are other ways that corruption can be revealed and removed. And it doesn't have to have casualties like all of us. Today I want to talk about hope. And I want to show you how all the things that are happening, they're happening for a good reason. And I want to remind you that our prayers avail to much. In the book of James, it says, the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he has committed sins, they shall be forgiven. If you confess your faults to one another, my friends, and you pray for one another, you may be healed, because the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man avails to much. Back in the day, Elias was a man who was subject to the passions that we are as well, but he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and rain didn't touch the earth. I don't want to see WW3. I know that God's will is going to be done, and everybody's just decided that's it. But while everyone was saying, oh, I told you, and oh, it's coming, and all of that stuff, and getting everybody ready to go, jumping on YouTube, like I felt to myself, I should come on here right away. But instead, what did I do? I went to the old X, and I started posting that there can be a de-escalation, that this doesn't have to be the end. And right now, it seems like we're in a little bit of a pause, and I feel like we have a moment. And I feel in this moment, I feel if we can come together and we can put aside our bitterness and our cynicism and everything else, and we can just think and love others as we were told to do, I think that we're going to find something good come out of this. But right now, we have another distraction, and that distraction is the witch hunt, which of course you see exactly a year ago. I covered this whole thing with Stormy Daniels. That's the trial. If you don't know who Stormy Daniels is, she was one of those stars that did the naughty stuff, you know, where you're supposed to keep it to yourself. But she was back in VHS days. She had like a whole series of videos, ironically, called the Witches of Brestwick. Right, because it's all about a witch hunt. So, of course, the person that he gets involved with is someone that's known for their adult films having to do with witchcraft. Strange, or still is that I feel like there is a big spell that's being cast on a regular basis. And I don't know if you know how faith works, but in your life, you'll probably say to yourself, hey, I knew this was going to happen. And it happened because you, for about a month, thought it was going to happen. What if that's true? What if your faith made it so? Because the scriptures say that this is a thing. They're like whole new age books, like The Secret and everything else. F. Donkey knows all about it. Thank you for the super chat. That basically make a living off of telling people that if you think things the right way, you get things the right way. I don't believe it works that way. But I do believe that a person gets what comes out of their heart. And right now, it seems that the whole country is, not the whole country, according to the latest polls, it's like 51%. Isn't that funny? Like there's 1% more that are supportive in the country. 51%, that's the big thing. 51%. They think that all of this stuff that is going on with the Trumpster is very unfair and very silly. And, well, if you're new to my channel, I sort of said that this was going to come across that way. And it was going to seem like the whole system was pitted against them. I can't tell you that that's not the case. It could be the case. Just like I can't tell you that his hat, MAGA, which Make America Great Again, also in Latin means like witchcraft and sorcery. I don't know if that's the thing. I do know that it's something that was going on for a long time. In Egypt, they had their wizards and they had everything else. But then you had God had like Moses, and he had like Elijah, and he had all of these other prophets. They were a smaller group of people. They weren't powerful. They weren't really super wealthy. But man, when they spoke, God acted. And this is hopefully what I'm trying to tap into today, because the Titanic and Donald Trump, they're linked. They're connected. Whether it's Newsweek saying Donald Trump's Titanic triumph, or I think it was Wired magazine, which did a whole like opinion piece where it wrote about how Trump could save all the, if Trump was on that boat, he would have saved the day. That was like out, I don't know, like 8 months ago or so. Or you have the people saying that it's Titanic Trump and like the co-defendants are fleeing the ship. This is big news. This is big news, especially outside of the courtroom right now, where you have everybody. It's like the show is on. The show is on. Everybody's standing by. You got Laura Loomer, if you know who she is. She's like a political commentator. She's on the megaphone. You got, Benny Johnson's doing his live show. All these are like conservative influencers. They all seem to be, hitting the same points. Doesn't seem very fair, does it? He's getting hit with something like, 34 counts or something. The idea was, he had this relationship and he was running for president. So what did he do? He paid her off. It's kind of like an NDA. And back when it first came out, he was like, this is no big deal. This happens all the time. And it does. It does. People get involved in relationships and everything else, and they sign little agreements. People get paid out. We see what happened with Diddy right now, with the terrible stuff that's happening with him. He paid out like millions and millions of dollars. I say if somebody pays that amount of money out, maybe there's some fire to that smoke. She got like $130,000. And I don't know if they use campaign funds or whatever else, but it's a big deal, especially with this lawyer. He came out and he said right away, this is an assault on America, the country that is failing, that's run by an incompetent man who's very much involved with this case. This is really an attack on a political opponent. It would be hard to disagree, right? Because you're looking at it. I, don't cheat on my wife, never have, never will. I most certainly am not going to pay off. Well, I don't have the money to do that anyway. If I did something like that, you have to understand the heart of the person that does something like this, maybe not the most righteous person, especially if Melania is pregnant. I'm not saying she was at the time. I think they made a big deal about this, and they're making a big deal out of it in court. They're actually even using some of the stuff from back in the day, where he was talking about grabbing by their, by the kitty cat or whatever. Thank you, Lauren Sawyer, for the super chat. They're admitting all this stuff. They're admitting all the stuff that's in social media. They're admitting all of what people would say is a smear campaign. But nonetheless, these are his words, locker room talk or whatever. But once again, does this then disqualify the man? When you know that the people that are in charge everywhere they seem so bankrupt and morally corrupt. And everything, we've been biding our time along the way, has gotten so out of control. It's gotten everybody so scared. Everybody thinks that the people are going to come up to them with like something and that's the new thing. Back in 2015, when I wrote that article about how scary things were going to get, I said you were going to be scared to go everywhere. But listen, it's a witch hunt. As this hush money trial is underway right now, it seems very much like it's a witch hunt. And Jimmy Kimmel wants to point out that everything seems kind of like a witch hunt right now. Especially if you look at all the things that are going on right now with the Chick-fil-A appearance that Donald Trump made. I mean, it certainly looked like people like the president there, right? Chick-fil-A is a Mandela effect for me. because I did shows. I remember it being Chick-fil-A with the C. I don't remember the K. I remember making jokes about this when I worked in Texas, when I worked for that Christian television network. We did shows with Dan Cathy. And I always remember thinking, like, why wouldn't they just put the K there? And then all of a sudden the K's there. Very strange. This is a very common Mandela effect. I don't even know if the Mandela effect's real. We don't know what's real, right? They had like a some kind of anomaly right down off of Antarctica. It was so huge. And then it like disappeared, and they're saying it was a modeling error. We don't know what's going on. But we know that everybody on social media, especially in my niche world, is saying that's it. They're waiting. They're waiting. Not me. Not me. I'm not going that route. I've been you know what interceding means? Does anybody know? Tell me in the live chat if you know what interceding. Leave me a comment if you know what interceding means. It means that you're like, there's not much that I can do. I'm a guy that makes just about as much as I was making when selling mattresses, right? All I can do is just pray, use my faith, use what God has given me, and hopefully encourage all of you to do the same, because I know that the more of us that see better in the world and create better in our lives, our own personal lives, if we turn from sin, you don't think God will have pity on a nation? He said if 25 or 10, righteous back in the day with Abraham, you don't think that God can use other means? For a long time, I was like, that's it. There's no way. People are too corrupt. But now I'm praying and I'm hoping. And I want to get you on board. I want to get you on board. The reason why I put on this thumbnail, "This ends now," is because I want to see an end to all of this nonsense. I want to see an end to it. I want to see something good come out of it. Like as if we were brought to the precipice of something. And then all of a sudden corruption is revealed in these different countries. And then a change of leadership takes place. And then some kind of calmer head takes over. And we find a way to work together. And we find a way to really honor God before ourselves and honor each other as if it was ourselves. The golden rule. Is this possible? I think it is. I just think it's going to take some time. And I think the people that aren't going to go along with it aren't going to be too happy. But I got to tell you one thing. It's I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention. So while the witch trial is going on, and this judge, I don't know if you know anything about this trial, but this judge, he is saying very clearly that he's not going to recuse himself. Now, they wanted him to leave because, his daughter works for an organization that their whole point in life is like to bring down the Trumpster, basically, in a roundabout way. It's very strange that this judge in Trump's hush money trial is allowing prosecutors to discuss these tapes, these affair allegations, and these tabloid stories. It's weird that the courtroom is like going to gossip. I don't think it's weird, though, because I think that is, it's like if you want to get people to feel bad and see someone being, you probably want to see things that are, this doesn't make a lot of sense unless, of course, it's really to enrage all of us even further. There's part of me that worries that. But then there's the other part of me that thinks that, well, listen, God's going to do it, how he's going to do it. And the people that are in charge are going to be in charge. And all I can do is pray and hope that, when the heavy hand comes down, it's only coming down on the people that deserve it. And right now, a lot of people are saying that he doesn't deserve this. He doesn't deserve this. Well, if he broke the law, he broke the law. I don't know what to tell you. Just seems like it's like, I can't even keep up with how many trials the Trumpster has. So the lawyers, they sought recusal on the grounds of his daughter, who works for Authentic, a firm that's done business with the Democrats, including the campaign. Authentic and Your Honor's daughter are making money by supporting the creation and dissemination of campaign advocacy for President Trump's opponents, political rivals, and the Democratic Party, the lawyers argued, and it was rejected. Judge is like, I'm not going to recuse the case. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you something. I had a court case with my ex-wife. Now, we're all on good terms. She's in California and everything else. You know, it is what it is. Life takes weird, crazy turns. I was blessed enough to get what I desired. I got to raise my children. I got my children to still have a good relationship with their mother. Their mother, for what, you know, life has dealt her some hard blows. It wasn't for me. I was always very supportive. I didn't ask much. I knew God would work things out. Is in California. But I remember being in court when we were going, because she was involved with like a bad guy, and it's like, and I didn't have any money, and I had given everything away, and we just got divorced, and I was in this like small little apartment, and it was a tough time. I was very sick. I was in a hospital bleeding out. It was a tough time. I was flat broke. How do I end up with like custody of my children? How do I end up getting, that bad guy out? Really bad. And I remember when we were in court, the judge recused himself because he said, my son is in the service. And what this guy who like wormed his way into my ex-wife's life, and he's paid for it. He's been in prison a bunch of times. I think he's addicted to heroin. God will bless those that bless you if you do good, and he'll curse those that curse you. It's like you don't got to raise your hand. That's why it's not eye for an eye. God does it for you. But when the judge recused himself, I thought, oh, that's strange. It would be nice. He has a child in the military. It'd be nice if he was on my side because he would see what this other guy did and he would understand. But he recused himself. That's what judges are supposed to do if there's a conflict of interest. So the fact that the judge didn't do this is suspect. And people have a problem with it. But once again, what does this matter in the grand scheme of things with everything that's going on in the world today? What does it matter when we got people talking about, this is it. The big one's here. There's no stopping it. There's no stopping it. There's nothing we can do. This is the end. What are we going to do when, you're in your house and inflation is so through the roof, you can't afford anything, and then all of a sudden, then this on top of everything else? I said no. So obviously, as you're aware, what happened? April Fool's Day. All right, I put a little test out that the enemy would be, dethroned or something. It was a weird thing. And then we heard about the top generals for Iran being, and this was a big deal at the time, and everybody knew that there was going to be some kind of a blowback, and there was. And we just witnessed this was this a day or two ago? Not even that long ago. This is a big deal. They just sent one drone after another drone, and then social media was just awash with all of this stuff. Oh, they're coming in, and so many Americans, so many influencers, so many pastors, so many God-fearing YouTubers. We're all on both sides. Everybody was calling for. These are people who've been manipulated by the system that's in charge of them, thinking they've been divided to hate each other. And the whole system is doing everything it can. And we're seeing tragedy on all fronts. And you don't know what to believe, and that's part of the problem. Because when you don't know what's true, how can you make any right decision? So I offer you a decision that I think everybody could see to be right. That we pray for corruption to be revealed, and that we pray for de-escalation and calmer heads to prevail. I felt like I was the only one out there doing this. Not like I'm so great. It was like I couldn't do anything else. So what am I going to do? Join in the victory celebration? Oh, we said it was coming. Yeah, I said things were going to come. But I also said that when that clips hit everywhere in Nineveh and everybody was talking about it, was oh, boo, 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 boo. I said God repents because we repent. A person reaps what they sow. And if you're not going to turn to God and say, I'm really sorry, help me through this another way, you're going to reap what you sow. Maybe there's another plan that's taken root. I'm trying to envision one. I'm praying for that. So their war cabinet got together. They're meeting right now, and their policy, they're trying to lay things out. They're weighing strikes on this country to send a message, but they're like, we're going to minimize human life. But at the same time, we hear strange. We hear that, Iran came to talk to Turkey. They talked to the U.S. They coordinated. Seemed like they were being a little responsible. We have to do something. How are we going to do this without having... Seems like people may be thinking, believe me, I am not saying what they did is right. God forbid, none of it's right. But what I'm saying is I see a seed of hope that there's a possibility that perhaps cooler heads can prevail. Maybe if the leaders that are in charge right now can't work out a deal and come to terms using political means, maybe they need to be ripped away, as opposed to having this go any further. So this is what I did. And you tell me maybe I'm crazy. When everybody was screaming WW3 and everything else, I wrote, now you see that little thing to the right where it says everybody calm down. I said, sadly, many influencers are secretly hoping that Iran strikes Israel. Now, ironically, right after I put this out, that's what happened. I said, tell me it's not true. Everyone seems to be past even the slightest idea that peace talks could begin. I said, I will say this, I do not want escalation, and so I'm waiting to hear of de-escalation. Why wait? Test. Now, you remember what I do with the little test things? I put it out. It's not that I have prior knowledge. It's I'm putting it out there, Lord. I'm putting this out there. Can you answer this for us? Could you answer it? Because I'm scared. I'm scared for my family. I'm scared for my neighbors. I'm scared for my friends. And I'm scared for little children that I never met, or little women that I never met, right? Or priests that are getting attacked. I'm worried about so many people because so much stuff is being thrust into our face that I'm like, it's finished. I'm done with it. We need a change, and it needs to happen soon. We need a switch. That flip that I've been talking about. So, after I put that out, go figure, a couple of people were like, hey, Jacob, look what just happened. Kind of like, you stupid guy. Like as if you could somehow, in faith, pray and hope that God answers your prayer and that inspires the hearts of these leaders to de-escalate. Well, they just attacked. What are you going to do now? I doubled down on it. I reposted it an hour later, and I said, is all hope is lost? Or can we pray and collectively see a better outcome? Everyone can't wait to share this news, because that's what was happening. Everybody was rushing to show that video of all those little, drones being blown up. 99% of them got destroyed, by the way. The U.S. helped, Britain helped. And then I wrote, this is why I'm doing this, because I don't want to see more bloodshed or division. Is God's arm slack that it cannot save? Is God's arm not merciful? This unprecedented attack on early Sunday marked a change in the approach for this country. In the past, they relied on proxies and stuff like that, but this was it was very clear. We're going to do this to you, and you better not mess with us again. So everybody thought that was it, because, this was going to be the big one. They were saying all those drones were going to just deplete their iron dome, the shield, whatever they have, iron shield, or whatever it is that shoots everything down. And the U.S. helped with this, and I believe UK helped with this too. And then they were going to launch their hypersonic. Everybody was saying all this, but none of that happened. None of that happened. In fact, what happened was they talked about what they were going to do and how they were going to do it ahead of time. So there wouldn't be a lot of casualties. I think the only thing that was struck was like an airfield or something else. But everybody on social media, I didn't see anybody stepping out in faith and saying, calmer heads. I didn't see it. I was hoping to see it. I was actually asking everybody. I even wrote a poem. I wrote a poem using this really cool post that the real Kim Shady put out, that this attack literally happened. I mean, how insane is this? What are the literally happened just 911 months before the... It's just weird. Weird to think that that would happen. But they were quick to say 99% of these 300 missiles and drones, they were shot down. The response to these drones and missile attacks that were called off last minute after a phone call between Netanyahu and Biden. Yeah. Turns out Biden said that we're not going to support you if you retaliate. I may be adding to that, but that's basically the gist. That's basically the gist. That this is the way it's going to stop. You know? Because they're at the precipice. They actually gathered everybody together. I think it was at the UN, and they're all like, listen, we got to stop. Now everybody came against this unprecedented thing from Tehran. They came against it. They said this is not a good thing. But they're calling for peace. They're calling for de-escalation. The very thing that I prayed for. The very thing that I doubled down and I said, if it's possible. And I said, why is nobody else interceding? I asked everybody. And then a lot of you on X, you started putting out yours. You're hoping for, we don't want to see this. I don't care how many of you want to point and say somebody's just totally evil and the other person's not. Because the other person's going to say that person's totally evil. And the other, let me tell you something. The scriptures say very clearly that man is just a mess. But God can change his heart. And how does this happen? By wondrous heavenly miracles and shows. I just want to see some good ones. I can't say that by the end of the show that something terrible is going to break out. I can't even say that I don't feel that something terrible is going to break out. But I can say God answers the prayers of a person who's sincere. And I know a lot of you are sincere. We need to see something better than a bunch of red heifers being put to death in some holy act, which is what's happening. A lot of people say that all this skirmish is about the dome on the rock to begin with. In fact, I wrote an essay based on a dream that I had about that very area. 13 years, 3 months, and like 3 weeks before this attack went down. And it was called Will the Wall Fall? Where I had this terrible dream that Israel came against Palestine. And the response that was given to them was like they didn't expect it. It was like the whole world turned against them. And in the dream, it was like one of those things where I hope they don't make the same mistake. On the show, I've been talking about a lot of these biblical stories, the biblical story of Esther. Recently, we talked about Jonah. But at the very end, Esther is spared. God's people are spared. And who are the children of the kingdom according to Scripture? It's the peacemakers. So, a lot of people are up in arms about what's happening. Even the exiled crown prince says something that sounds like it's hopeful. For many years, I've said that the destinies of the peoples of Iran and Israel are intertwined. There's a common dream of peace between these countries. I think it's important to note that while everybody thought that it was going to get crazier and crazier and crazier, I doubled down, I prayed and interceded, and then we found out Iran said, no more. We're done. We're done. We responded to what you did because what you did was wrong. And you better not mess with us again. Now, this is like an olive branch in a weird way. If you think that peace can come out of attacks, it's a choice to have peace. It's a choice. But I think that God is bigger than the will of a couple of men, a couple of generals. I think that God can get into the heart of even these generals, even these hateful people. And I believe that God can make people wake up to the fact that it's over. Just like we talked about that king. I believe the king's name is Abimelech, just recently, where he made a deal because Babylon was coming in. And he made a deal with Egypt and everything else. But last minute, he's like, to save all the people, he makes a deal. He says, I'm going to side with this other force, this coming in. That's this other force coming in. It would be the equivalent of Biden being like, uh-oh, we can't support you if you retaliate because this is not going to be good. And I got to make deals somehow. This is what my hope is. My hope is that these biblical stories can be something for today as well, where we could see at some point calmer heads prevail. So he says that, peace is something that the people want. Even Saudi Arabia is saying that this is because, they've normalized relationships with Israel. But Biden said very clearly that we will not support a response to this attack. They created enormous political trouble for Biden. And I think that we need the power players in the world to tell everybody this has got to stop right now. Everything's got to stop right now. We got to end this now. I'm saying this in faith. I'm hoping that you can do the same thing. That we can see it in the world, that it's got to stop now. It's gotten out of control. All of this stuff. All of it. And the people that be corrupt, that they be revealed to be who they are. This is all I can do. This is all I can do. But there you see in even the Jerusalem Post, they said that they informed Turkey in advance of the operation. A diplomat told Reuters on Sunday. And he said, you better not get back involved. It's got to stop. I was praying and hoping that would happen. And when people kind of threw it in my face, when I said, I know everybody's praying, everybody wants Iran to attack right now, seems like. I don't want that to happen. I want to hear about de-escalation. I want to hear about peace. I don't want to hear about civilians and casualties anymore. I don't want to hear about attacks in malls or wherever else, or churches. I don't want to hear of it anymore. I don't want to. I even wrote a poem. I wrote a poem about this, and then I reached out to. He's really awesome. You gotta check him out. Let me pull up this on X. Straight Mobin. He's a producer. You should go follow him on X. He's taking my little poems that I write, and then he uses AI and works it out to be like a little song. And I told him, I said, it would be really nice if people could hear this. And it's just amazing what AI can do. In any event, this is actually, this is it. It's very short. Just take a listen. Let me just turn on the sound.
He's got some slack that it cannot save. And why against a chance for peace do you behave as a war depraved, spoil sport, desiring more acts of hate? Should we not rather hope, demand, and pray that world leaders find another way, and bloodstained hands of greed or stay past the test?
Pass the test. And the idea is this test that I put out that, maybe that we don't give up on these people. I know that there are a lot, there are a lot of greedy people. I know this. And I know that people hurt because of these very greedy people. It's not a good thing. But once again, I know people have very strong ideas about this. I would like to see us hope that we can get some people together to make things better. Make things better. Now, it seems like the things that are being called better, like being able to share freely on an open social media platform, which seems to be happening. I mean, it does seem to be happening on X, for me at least. It happens on YouTube as well, I guess, except for the fact that everybody tells me that they're always, unsubscribed. Well, you make sure that you subscribe. And we got well over 1,000 people watching. I didn't even tell you. You should hit the like and leave a comment too. If you want to do something to help me out, if I've ever encouraged you, leaving a comment, hitting like. If you want to go even further and share, you want to get involved, want to get some merch, you want to become part of Patreon, all the links are in the description of the video below. These are ways, but just the way to do it that doesn't cost anything, just hitting a like and leaving a comment, tell me what you thought, means a lot. And on X, unless of course you're in Brazil, which seems to be a big problem, you can get what I'm sharing and not be too stressed out about the fact that it, won't be seen, or you may be unsubscribed or whatever else. But what's weird about the old Brazil, and I don't know how many of you falas Português, obrigado. I speak a little bit of Portuguese, but we talked about Brazil. And why? Well, because on January 8th, we saw basically the same thing happen at their capital that happened in ours. It was so strange that they even had their own little Baphomet running around. Like the guy we have, that guy Jake, who went into the Capitol. Craziness. They had their own. It was very strange with Bolsonaro and everything else. But I said, oh, Brazil, we saw you coming. 1 year, 3 months, exactly, from when reporting on this debacle began. That's strange. So I don't know if you know what's going on, but it's a big deal, and it really does center around free speech. This is something you should get interested in. Elon is facing and feuding with the Brazilian Supreme Court in a big way, like an investigation's been opened up into him. I'm sure he's not sweating it. Just seems incredibly unfair. Seems wrong. On the level, it doesn't seem like it's up and up at all. Very strange. But so much is today, right? Even this guy, Diego, he was an administrator in Brazil over for X. He resigned because the judge basically threatened. Now, if you want to see that judge, that's the guy right there in the cape. Why is it that a lot of these characters that seem to be pretty bad dress up like evil villains? Elon even called him, this judge, like Darth Vader. But there is talk in that country about how, like, if you believe the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing, you say something that's a lie, you should be put in prison for lying. Scary what is taking place over there. What's weird to me is that as all this is happening, I'm back on that HBO series, great series, if you've never seen it, it's called The Leftovers. I'm on season 2, I'm watching an episode, and look at the flag. Lower right-hand corner. It was like substantially, for whatever reason, it was just there. Here I'm thinking about Brazil and everything else, and then I'm watching this show, trying to get my mind off of things that are going on in the world, and there's the flag. Strange. Even the debt clock put out freedom of expression, where it's showing you the difference between freedom, liberty, and tyranny. This is a very strange thing. How did free speech become a cause for Brazil's far right, as they say? Same way it did here. Same thing. They're just like a year and 3 months behind, 13. Hard for me to not think that this is all irrelevant in the greater scheme of things. That these are all the little dog whistles to keep our attention off of the bigger things that are happening. Hard for me. Are you into Coachella and all the strange celebrities that are over there? Well, the big news, besides, of course, Jaden Smith coming over and, getting really intimate with Justin Bieber, saying hi, coming up, and just kind of, it was strange, it was weird. And then Justin gives him, a kiss on the cheek. But they're artists. They probably were subjected to some bad stuff. They probably have some bond with all the crazy stuff. We're hearing about all the stories about these, these poor children. Even Paris Hilton, finally, she was sent to this school. You would think that these powerful people, and then you wonder why they grow up to be so kooky. Bieber's song about P. Diddy, man, it breaks your heart, It breaks your heart when you think about that, these are human beings. I know that whatever, they sell out or whatever they do and they get involved with the wrong people and they do terrible things. But why did they do it? Because they were abused and hurt and they were showed the wrong way. And that's why they're all so screwed up. It stinks. At Coachella, more news was, of course, Lana Del Rey. We talked about Marina Del Rey a lot. Remember we had the lockdown? 8 o'clock, no one could come out. That didn't stop things. They just had another big Del Rey. But then you got Lana Del Rey and Billie Eilish singing a song together. Big news. Del Rey means the king. Marina is like the sea. It's a weird day. Even Grimes, she was at Coachella and she had a problem. I guess she farmed out some help, and usually she's very meticulous and she's over everything. She's like a master DJ and she's a master artist. And I guess some people she had hired to do this stuff, and it was just, you feel bad. You feel bad. It's like a big deal. But you know what? No one cared. It was still cool. Everybody had a good time. But she freaked out. That was kind of a big thing. And she had some big technical issues, and she took it like a champ. She apologized. But once again, everybody looks so, everybody just looks so weird, and everybody they don't look that healthy. I was looking at these people just don't look healthy. I hope that you're all healthy. I hope you're eating right. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I eat pretty boring. And after this cold, whatever, I can't taste anything. It's the strangest thing. It's the strangest thing. I don't know. Ever since that eclipse, it's been very weird. It's been very weird. But I've been praying and hoping that you all could kind of join in with me here. Kind of join in with me to let's get something good going. Let's get something good going. Something that's going to, change the world. Let's think for a second that our God is bigger than the titans of the world. The Titanic, the Titan, right? These are like the Nephilim in Scripture, you could say. The fallen ones, the Anunnaki. The Titans, God can't sink us. That's what a lot of them think. The iceberg took them down. The iceberg took them down. Maybe their plan is to have something like that. Maybe they want, for years, that's been a thing. Thousands of years, they did a culling. They got worried that their slave population would get too big, so they cull them off. This happened back in Egypt. The under 2, Pharaoh sends out the thing, go. Then, of course, the census. Donald Trump put out a census 2020. then it's like, go out, get rid of all the kids under 2, because we don't want that Christ child, right? But their plans fail. Their plans are going to fail. I wanted to reimagine when those Guidestones came down. You know, the George Guidestones? They called it like the Illuminati's, like 10 Commandments. One of them was maintaining population under 500 million. And they blew up. I don't know if you saw. You got to tell me if you think that was like, well, we've done what we were supposed to do. What if it was more like your plan's going to fail? That's something that Elon talks about. It's like the extinctionists against the, I don't know, what was the creationists or the people that want to live? There's a war going on. The people that are on the side of life and are on the side of charity and hope and brotherly love and unity. That's what needs to take the helm right now. And I think it's going to take the helm. And I think that if you're not part of the solution, you're going to have some problems. One of the things that I put out was a reminder of why we have wars and really where it comes from. In the book of James, in chapter 4, it says, "What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires? That battle within you?" I mean, when we have these issues, don't you think that they're coming from us? Or are you like a person who wants to blame everything outside of you? You want to point the finger, and do you get excited when you see things? And then you're like, yeah, I told you so, there's war. I don't want to be that person. It's not like I see like this beautiful, wonderful time ahead of us. I'd rather see a quick change of leadership. I don't care how it's done. I don't care how it's done. And then something's progress towards peace. We don't know. Things could be coming in from space. The devil comets just reached perihelions, come back. And that thing was breaking apart. What do you think happens when a comet comes apart? We need to live a better life so we can go to sleep at night and know, because this is not the end, I'm telling you. And know that the prayers of a person who wants to do well, a righteous person, someone who's trying to do well, they avail to much. These quarrels and these fights, they come from a battle that's going on within you. You desire stuff, but you don't have it, so you kill to have it. You covet, but you can't get what you want, so you quarrel and you fight until you do. You do not have because you don't ask God. And when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with the wrong motive. That you may spend what you get on your pleasure. This is the problem. When you call out to God, it's with the wrong intention. We need to call out God with the right intention. We need to ask for another chance. We need to pray for them. Both of them. We need to pray for even the worst that they will repent. We need to do good even to the hardest to love. If you only do good to those that love you and treat you right, where's the reward in that? Small little things that we can do, my friends. No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted. I don't know if Aesop said that in his fables, but I'm going with it. When you put out your seed, things come. Now, speaking of 13 years ago, 3 months and 3 weeks ago, I guess, December 23rd, I wrote this essay. Will the wall literally fall? It's on my website, jacobisrael.com. You can go there. Subscribe. It's free. Got a bunch of essays and a lot of other stuff that I've shared over the years, kind of like in my life's work. It's like a library, and it's there. Just take it. I don't charge anybody. Rhonda Peterson knows I'm her favorite meatball. Thank you, Rhonda, for the super chat. I wanted to remind everybody that the literal land of Israel had become one of the biggest idols in the world for basically Christians and Jews. And for a year, I had a feeling that something was going to happen. Recently, I had a dream. Now, I wrote this years ago. A very strange one. I was in Palestine and Israel launched an attack. I remember being scared as I ran from the rocket fire in the dream. In the dream, I found myself smack dab in the middle of all of it, like I am right now, actually. Like I don't want to choose sides. Ironically, I shared this dream with a man. You may even know him, guys. His name's John Paul Jackson. I knew him actually pretty well. Used to speak into his life too. Nice enough man who I had pleasure of sharing many insights with years ago. He did not know what to make of the dream, but I did. That it was symbolism manifested in a literal war between these two countries. In the dream, Israel launched a devastating attack. But as I turned to my right, I saw such retaliation. I said to myself, they had no idea what they started. And it was an awful, awful dream. And the essay goes on. I mean, does this have to be the case? No, it doesn't. We can learn from our mistakes. I tell people to pay attention to your dreams. Sometimes, like Noah said to me, he had a dream and he was with some work associates and there were a bunch of snakes and they were biting everybody and they were trying to bite him. And I said, oh, that just means be careful at work and you got to look at the symbolism of things. God gives us dreams sometimes to wake us up and to remind us that we don't need to go down the wrong path. It's like a warning. This dream was a warning. Will the wall literally fall? I want the wall to literally fall. The wall between us. Between our relationship with our Creator. So when I prayed for de-escalation, and I asked for de-escalation in the midst of the storm, as Terry will know, thank you for the super chat, I didn't know that de-escalation was going to happen like this. But here it is. But we're in a pause. So I'm asking you, where are the peacemakers? Where are the peacemakers? Because they're the ones that are blessed. They're the ones that enter the kingdom. The people that want to make peace. I hope that you're one of them. You know what else I hope? I hope that you get a copy of my novel, The Calling. I have not been sharing the trailer recently. I apologize for that. If you're new, it's an awesome novel. It was written for this day. It's kind of like my life's work. I usually save all the plugs for the very end, but I want to play the trailer for those of you who've seen it and for those of you who haven't seen it. And hopefully you'll go to Amazon and get yourself a copy. Enjoy The Calling. And I'll be right back.
September 10th. Mars hangs closer to the Earth than it has in 6,000 years. Like the light that led men from the east to a child in a manger, it could well be a sign of good things to come. Thomas James shall be his name. The world will change because of him. In the small town of Bethel, in a time not unlike our own, a child with a great purpose is born. Years later, alienated by his peers and abused, Thomas suffers a devastating loss. When it appears he has nothing left to live for in the world, this is when his true calling begins. While trying to escape the sinister powers that be, a terrifying vision haunts him. Miraculous events seem to follow the peculiar young man as he struggles to come to terms with what he was born to do. The stage is set. The time is at hand. The truth will rise and a revolution will begin. The startling revelation of who Thomas James is, truly, will change the lives of those around him and set off a chain of events long ago foretold. There is more to this novel than one might think. Inside these pages hides a treasure just waiting to be discovered. So if you've ever wondered if there's more to life, or why it is we suffer, then this story will not only captivate you, it may just open your eyes to a truth that could set you free.
All right.
Find out what is in us all
today.
that makes us heed the calling.
You may even find yourself whisked away to a new place. I got some really cool music playing right now. The show is now over, my friends, and I hope that you have enjoyed yourself. I hope that you put some good stuff out there, some good vibes out there. You know? Let's get involved. Let's not think the worst. Let's love each other. Let's give hugs and kisses. Let's be better spouses and better friends. And let's not forget to dance. All right, listen, I love each and every one of you. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, do all the stuff. Go to the links in the description. Have the best day ever. I love you. And I will see